You are listening to the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome to show number 32. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 13th of May 2006. What is a project management methodology and what's the benefit? How do you develop a project management methodology? And what are some of the best practices of implementing them in your company? These are just some of the topics Gerard Hill and myself will be discussing today. It's a great interview that you're going to hear today. It's a little longer, so today's show is going to run longer than the 30 minutes that I've been aiming for lately. So let's get rolling here with a couple of announcements that I have. First of all, I'd like to come back to the PMP Preparation Podcast poll that I announced a couple of weeks ago. I told you that I was thinking of doing a PMP preparation podcast, that was going to be a premium podcast which you would have to pay for, and I really want to have your opinion about whether or not you would think about subscribing to such a premium for pay podcast. I have a link to that poll on the blog, and I would very much appreciate it if you would stop by at the blog and click the button. And while you're there, I know you're listening to this probably in the car, in the gym, or maybe you're riding a bicycle. So when you're back at your computer and when you're voting in that poll, I would also appreciate it if you could look on the left-hand side. There is a new link that says write an iTunes review. So if you are an iTunes user, I would very much appreciate it if you would click on that link, go to the iTunes Music Store, it'll automatically take you there, and if you would write a quick review about what you think the Project Management Podcast does for you, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you. Today's show is sponsored by Project Insight, 100% web-based project management software. PMI research found that 52% of project teams are a mix of professional project managers and non-project managers. Project Insight bridges the gap with a solution that is robust enough for savvy project managers, yet easy enough for the entire team. To find out more, please visit www.projectinsight.com. Even though we have a long interview coming up in just a moment, I don't want to do a show without giving you a few very helpful resources. And I don't think I have ever mentioned PM Forum. That's pmforum.com, of course. This is a great hub where you can find an enormous wealth of information. Let me just read what they have on the left-hand side, sort of an index or a table of contents of their site. So there's PM World Today, their newsletter. They have editorials, featured papers, case studies. They have a PM community. There is a discussion center, a project management events calendar. They have expert resources, and you can also find the latest PM-related press releases. And that was just the top half of this. In the bottom half, they talk about practices, standards, libraries, etc., etc., etc. At least about 20 entries here that you can surf through, that you can click through and really learn a lot about project management. Very, very nice site, pmforum.com. Next, let's jump to the United Kingdom. On Monday, June 12th, EVA 11 will begin. EVA 11 is the annual Earned Value event by the APM, the Association of Project Management. It'll take place at the UCL, Euston Square in London. It'll start on Monday the 12th and it'll continue right through until Saturday of the same week. There is a conference, they have workshops, and the workshop topics are Earned Value Concepts, Earned Schedule, Integrated Baseline Review, Advanced Earned Value Techniques, and Introduction to Risk for Earned Value Practitioners. The full program has not yet been circulated, but that should be coming out shortly. The price for APM members is £200 a day per person. If you are in London and you are in the earned value space, this is definitely the event for you to participate in. And finally, project management is boldly going where no project management has gone before, it seems, because a survey shows support for legal project management. This is a news item that I found that was published on May 11th. And they write, principles of project management would be well received in the legal world according to a result of a recent survey. And among the survey findings, they find that 44% of the general counsel responding to this survey said that the outside counsel remains within budget only half of the time. 47% said that they receive no updates or status reports forms whatsoever from outside counsel. 55% were unfamiliar with the concept of project management, and only 6% thought or doubted that project management would be an improvement. That means we're probably going to see something similar like the extension for construction to the PMBOK, something like a extension for the legal field of the PMBOK. And I bet shortly after that we're going to see the first lawsuit against the PMBOK because it's just too darn boring to read. And that's the news, helpful resources and events for this week. As always, once you're back at home, log on to pmpodcast.blogspot.com where you will find links to every item that I have just mentioned. And now, on with the main section of the show. A couple of weeks ago, Gerard Hill got in touch with me with an email, and he said that he and I share a common passion, and that is project management methodologies and PMOs. So I invited him to be a guest on the show about his new project PRISM methodology, and also to talk about project management methodologies in general. Gerard Hill is the principal of the Hill Consulting Group, and he has more than 25 years of experience in project management practice, design and implementation, information systems integration, as well as business process engineering. His specialty is enabling businesses to gain and sustain a competitive edge through development and implementation of what he calls total practice project management solutions. Before Gerard started Hill Consulting Group, he was with ESI International, where he served as the Vice President of Technical Services. He has led or contributed to the development of project management methodologies, currently deployed by organizations around the world, and we'll be talking about those. He is the architect of capability and maturity assessments for business and project management. And he has a particular expertise in designing and developing project management office solution. His current work includes the development of his new matrix-based Project PRISM methodology for project management, and he has also refined an approach to PMO design and implementation. Recently, he has also chaired 2 project portfolio management conferences. And most importantly, Gerard Hill is also the author of the book The Complete Project Management Office Handbook, and we will be giving away 2 copies of those after the upcoming interview. Gerard and I did this interview over Skype, and you will notice that we've had a little bit of a hum in the background, so I did a lot of work to improve the quality of the sound. I hope you enjoy it.
The Project Management Podcast Feature Interview. Today, with Gerard Hill, Principal of the Hill Consulting Group.
Hello, Gerard, and thank you very much for joining us here on the show.
Well, hi, Cornelius. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening.
Well, thank you. Gerard, after writing the Complete Project Management Office Handbook, what
prompted you to start the development of the Project Prism methodology?
Well, in the complete PMO handbook that I had produced about a year and a half ago, it contains some 20 functions of a PMO. And the very first one is that of methodology deployment. So, in considering that as being a very high priority for a PMO of any size, I examined that chapter in the book and looked at it and saw that it was rather weak in actual content. It certainly prescribed what the PMO could do, but it didn't contain all the details. So I thought I would enhance that, if you will, and expand it out into a full methodology, which we now call Project Prism.
All right. How long did it actually take you to develop that methodology?
This methodology took about, let me think. It was probably a little more than a year of close to full-time work on the methodology to create it from start to finish, from concept to completion.
And while we're talking about the book, how are the sales going? How's it doing?
Well, it seems to be doing okay. In fact, I just received a call from my publisher within the last week, and they were talking about how after the first year it was kind of a slow start, but in the last 6 months it's increased significantly in sales. And actually we're starting discussions now on the first revision to the book, which if it goes through will be coming out at the end of the year. And as well, I was in Tokyo, Japan about a year or so ago, and they decided, a company over there decided that they would translate it into Japanese. So all in all, the PMO book is doing very well.
Good for you, and good for our listeners is the fact that you have graciously donated 2 copies of the book to the show. And if you continue to listen, at the end of the interview, after the interview, I'll make the announcement how you can win one of those 2 copies. So thank you very much, Gerard. We appreciate it very much.
My pleasure to do that.
Why did you decide to develop another methodology when there are already so many out there, other than your book was a bit weak in that particular area?
Well, you're absolutely right, Cornelius. There are quite a few methodologies out there. And many of them are actually technical-based methodologies. They are prominently IT and software-related methodologies that incorporate a little bit of project management where needed. But there are also a number of unnamed methodologies out there as well that have simply bits and pieces of processes, not a complete life cycle methodology. So in examining that market, if you will, and that need in various industries, we just decided that a very complete and comprehensive methodology was still needed across industries, keeping in mind the fact that while technology or technical methodologies are definitely needed, they are there for the purpose of producing an excellent product or service, a deliverable to the customer. In contrast, project management methodologies are produced and deployed for the purpose of achieving project success. So they have kind of 2 different purposes. In light of the many methodologies out there already being attuned to the technology and technical world, we decided that this would be a good basic methodology that could be applied across various industries to help them achieve better results in project management.
Are you the author of any other project management methodologies?
Author is probably one word that is used. I have participated in quite a few, probably have 11 or 12 of them under my belt in the last 15 years or so. And some of these include, one of our earlier efforts was for a very prominent international controls organization. We went in there and helped them to define and decide a process that could be applied in their organization. It started out as a regional effort, and then ultimately was deployed to reach Europe and Asia. So that was a very successful methodology development effort there. As well, we had another effort for a well-known Fortune 50 computer hardware manufacturer. And what we did is started out trying to fill the gaps. Again, they had a technical methodology and wanted a more robust, more comprehensive project management capability. So we went in there to try to fill those gaps, and it turned out that we actually did a major revision on their entire methodology, which is now deployed around the world. I know it's in Europe and South America and a few other places. Another final example of some of my previous work was for another Fortune 50 company in telecommunications. We actually created a methodology on the fly in conjunction with our setting up a PMO for a $1 billion program. That's billion with a B. And what we did was, as the methodology processes were created, we rolled them out to the project managers on the program. So those are a few examples of my past work.
Yeah, and let me guess, you probably did pretty much the same thing that I did with my clients too. You're at a client, you need to implement a methodology, and you take something like the PMBOK, like Prince2, best practices, and you create a specific methodology for that customer, the way it works in their environment, in their corporate culture, right?
Exactly. You want to make sure that that methodology is consistent both with some standards, such as the PMBOK, and also consistent with the corporate culture, because if it isn't, it won't be used. It will remain on the shelf and, just gathering dust, I suppose.
Let's go back to the basics. What, in your opinion, is a project management methodology? How would you define it?
There are probably a variety of ways to define it. What I've been considering a methodology to be is that a process of a standard approach for conducting project management. It's basically a life cycle of activities that are performed to ensure that the project is a success. It's usually characterized by a repeatable process that's based on a standard. It has prescribed actions needed to achieve the project objectives. And it also has some guidance on how to perform those process steps. If you will, I'll make reference to the Project PRISM methodology, and that is it has three components. First of all, it has a process guide, and our process that we prescribe is a 4-phase project management life cycle. The processes that are contained in that guide prescribe what should be done to effectively manage a project and to ensure project success. We believe it contains all of the essential activities of project management, and so therefore if each one is performed, then you can have a fairly high reliability of project success. The second component of Project PRISM is that of a practice guide. And this is some 47 different project management practices that are grouped into 15 practice areas. And this tells you how to do it. In other words, if you go to a process guide element and it tells you to do risk management, you can then go to the practice guide and it will tell you how to do it. So this is good for both the new project manager as well as for the seasoned project manager who just wants to touch up on a reference on or to gain some new concepts on how to perform a particular project management activity. The third component of Project PRISM is that of the process toolkit. And basically, the way we've designed the methodology is that there's a process tool for each of the process activities. So whenever you've accomplished or fulfilled the tool, you've fulfilled the process, which then you know that the work is done.
When I compare what you have just said to the PMBOK, it sounds like the process guide and the practice guide, that's where the PMBOK is probably similar. However, the one thing that I've always missed in the PMBOK is the process toolkit, the actual tools to help you. Even though they mention tools, they tell you this is a tool of cost estimating, but they don't give you a physical tool to use. Do you have a few examples of the tools that you provide in the process toolkit?
Yes, I do. But first, I'd like to make an additional comment on what you just said. We believe that the Project PRISM methodology is very consistent with the PMBOK, book that was produced by the Project Management Institute. And in that sense, the PMBOK for us serves as a standard. It is not in itself a methodology, but prescribes the standard activities that should be performed. The methodology, in contrast, explains and prescribes the process steps. In other words, the order of succession of project activities and the phases in which they are conducted. So that's what differentiates the methodology from a standard such as the PMBOK. And so many people will use the PMBOK as a excellent reference for conducting projects. And you're right, it does not have the toolkit, which we do provide within the methodology. Now, the toolkit, like I said, there is a tool in Project PRISM for each of the project processes, project management processes. And so some examples of that. In the early phases, what we call the profile or initiation phase, we have tools that help you to define the project definition tool. There are project classification tools. And of very great importance is the project charter tool, which is actually a project charter that is produced as a result of its completion. In subsequent phases of the project lifecycle, we have things like the risk management tools and project plan tools. So for all the important plans, we actually create a basis from which to develop your plans for risk, for quality, for staff management, for vendor management. And then in the execution phases, we have tools such as the reporting tools. We also have tools for tracking and controlling the project, examining earned value, and variance analysis for schedule and cost. So those tools are embedded into the methodology through the toolkit. And then finally, we have tools in the closeout or post phase, as we call it, that helps the project manager and project team to create their lessons learned and actually to perform evaluations on themselves, on the client, on vendors, and anyone involved in the project. So that's kind of a real quick example of the tools that are accompanying the Project PRISM.
If you don't mind, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the process of how you went about actually developing this project management methodology. I mean, how did you decide that it was going to be 4 phases, 47 practices, and 96 tools? Was it just your experience and best practice put together, or did you follow a process in order to develop the methodology?
Well, I believe that I probably used a variation on the organizational perspective of developing a methodology, which is what I have most experience in. Like I said, I had developed some 10 to 12 methodologies over the last several years, and in working in the organization, that gave me a basis for understanding what organizations need. So in developing a 4-phase life cycle for Project PRISM, that was fairly easy because projects have to start, they have to be planned, they have to be conducted, and they have to be closed. And so it was very simply, those are things that are always done on every project. Naming those phases then were relatively easy, or defining that there were 4 phases. I want to point out at this juncture, too, that we wanted to make this project management methodology accessible to technical methodologies that can be incorporated or linked, if you will, so that an organization that implements such a methodology can in fact go into any of those phases. And for example, if we go into the planning phase, the second phase of this methodology, and it says to perform risk management, well, now you can attach or link the technical aspects of that risk management. If you're in the software division, you'll do risk associated with software. If you're in construction division, you'll do that associated with construction. In finance or in HR or in any other department, you can use the same methodology across the board but you link the technical methods to it. Whenever it prescribes to do something, you go to your technical manual then. I'm not sure, have I answered the full question there?
Yes, certainly you have. Thank you. Now, once you've gone through the process of developing the methodology, you ended up with Project Prism. How is Project Prism different in terms of a methodology than others?
Well, I again make reference to my background in developing many types of methodologies, keying in primarily on executing project management. But I've also been involved in a few methodologies that directly incorporated or created the SDLC, the software development lifecycle, as well. And so, having that background, I could see where things were most needed and tried to apply that to the design of Project Prism. One of the things that I think Project Prism brings to any organization is that it provides comprehensive coverage of project management activities, and that would be as distinguished from any technical methodologies that are being used. So that is one key point, is that you do have all of the essential activities of project management identified for you so that you can track and perform them. Another point is that in this four-phase life cycle that I've defined, the four phases are actually mapped against 6 activity areas, and these include customer, project, staff, vendors, business, and management. If you look at this matchup, you can envision a matrix condition for the methodology. So it's not just a process flow, it's also a matrix whereby the user can go back to any point in the project management methodology to accomplish what he or she needs to do. So that if you're doing a risk management or risk assessment, you go to the risk area, and that's initially done under the planning phase for this methodology. And if you redo it sometime later in the project, during project execution, you would still go back to that one place. So there's always one single point where you can go to, and that's the feature that we call the matrix orientation of the methodology. And then, I guess, finally, because of the experience that was brought to bear in developing this methodology from all the many companies, the Fortune 50, Fortune 100s, and even a few smaller organizations, we're able to create a basis for Project Prism and for its use in just about any organization across industries. So that if you don't think that Project Prism is the full answer for your project management needs, it definitely will still serve as a basis for any customization that you want to do.
I was just going to get into that because you've mentioned Fortune 50 companies a couple of times. So that seems to me that if your background is in Fortune 50 companies, this must be a rather large methodology then. Is it possible for smaller companies to use it, to customize it, to make it smaller, to fit their needs?
Absolutely. The scalability of Project Prism is one of its features that I probably have failed to mention thus far. And that is, it prescribes the activities that are essential to successful project management. It also indicates at junctures in the practice guide, I guess, how it can be scaled for different use on different size projects of different classifications, of different value, of different strategic interest. And so it can be used for a project that's 1 month in duration, and it can be used for a project that's 3 to 5 years in duration. It's a matter of the intensity with which you perform things. I'm going to use the example again of risk assessment and risk management. On a small 4 to 6 week project, you still want to do a risk assessment. However, that may be a simple 1 hour effort by the project manager and an assistant, if you will. Conversely, On a multi-year project, that risk assessment may take the entire project team plus a few added experts brought in, and it may take 6 to 8 weeks just to do the risk assessment. So that's the kind of scalability that this methodology does provide. And as well, customization also includes introducing practices that are already used by the organization, big or small. So therefore, when you're looking at making this methodology, or any methodology for that matter, more appropriate to your organization, then you can simply collect your best practices. And I actually like to call them preferred practices, because someone else's best practices may not be your best practices. But that considered, you can then introduce the things that are already working well for you and retain those kind of things. So it doesn't just destroy the project management environment by introducing a new methodology.
So far, you've mentioned mostly how your methodology can be used in large companies, or in any size companies, really, in organizations. Many of my listeners are project managers who may be consultants. They work on an individual basis. They may be in smaller environments. Is there some sort of a benefit for individuals to use Project Prism?
I believe that there would be a good reason for individuals to use this methodology as well as organizations. Although methodology implementation, deployment, if you will, is best done across the organization for total results, the individual can also get some results from using this or any methodology, for that matter, that contains all of the essential activities of project management. And that includes the fact that a methodology will provide the individual project manager with guidance for repeatable processes. It will be based on a standard that the project manager or consultant can stand up to and show it to clients and customers to show how this is based in project management standards that are widely accepted. It serves, if you will, as a checklist for ensuring that all essential things are done. Even the individual, and perhaps primarily the individual, who is sometimes overly burdened with a project management effort, has to take a look and make sure that everything is being completed. I mean, project management is rigorous, and that's the meaning of project management in many venues and in many organizations. We want to try to make it easier for the project manager by having that kind of checklist available. And that's what the methodology essentially does through its process guidance and through its tools. And so that checklist is then available for them. As well, for one project manager who perhaps has a consistent cadre of project team members, they can learn together to use the methodology so that they become more consistent and more productive and more efficient and effective in applying aspects of project management to their work. And then finally, it might be the individual who actually serves as the point of introduction of the methodology into the organization in total. That individual can show how the methodology has been successful for them, and in turn promulgate it throughout the organization.
There appears to be a benefit for both organizations and individuals to use a methodology.
Well, absolutely, there is, and the nature of benefits of using the methodology are several. This is assuming, first of all, that it is in fact a good methodology and that it has been properly implemented and used, for that matter. Some of the benefits I might mention include, first of all, it provides a standard approach to the practice of project management. That means the organization or the individual now has a consistent, repeatable process, and it has documentation in the form of tools that back that up. It reduces the need for every project manager in the organization to have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and because it's all there, it's standardized, and it's consistent for all projects. So, and team members, when they go on to join different project teams in different areas of the organization, have the same sense of what has to be done because the methodology is the same. across the organization. It ensures the accomplishment of critical activities on a project. So there should be no reason for failure if you perform these activities as they are prescribed. It provides a common frame of reference for everybody, for team members in particular, but for any project stakeholders. Another benefit of project management methodology is that it provides an effective communication and reporting mechanism. I think we all try to get our hands on projects across the organization and roll them up so that senior and executive management can get a grasp on what's going on in the project management environment. And so whenever everyone's using the same reporting mechanisms and same communication methods, the roll-up or aggregation of that information from different projects through the program level and through the portfolio level then can be done better. And so that's one benefit that any methodology will bring to the organization. A third is that it introduces state-of-the-art project management practices to the organization. And of course, if you're doing that, then you have increased customer satisfaction, you have conformance to the customer's requirements, you have an ability to achieve planned project schedules and to manage effectively the cost and to control the cost, because you know what's going on at all points in time in the project. It's not guesswork anymore, it's just rigor of having to do the process steps. And then finally, there are some enhanced business benefits when this is properly implemented in the organization. And that is, there's probably going to be a quicker realization of profit or payback on the investment in every project, because now you're able to get through the project on time, on budget, and with a sufficient number of resources. So it also can help to make products and services readily available to the marketplace, perhaps even earlier than was expected. All of these things contribute to the business aspect of project management, and that is something that this methodology actually addresses.
Right, but just to be clear, you've spoken in general, right? This is what methodologies in general offer to both individuals and to companies.
That's correct, Cornelius. In fact, you can achieve benefits with most methodologies, provided that they contain all of the effective elements of project management that have to be performed. However, there is one additional critical factor, and that is methodology implementation. The methodology will give the organization benefits only if it's properly implemented. Now, let me explain what I mean by implementation or proper implementation. And that is, there are a number of things that the organization has to do before it's really working well, the methodology, that is. You don't just pick it out of the box, put it on your desk, and start using it in projects. In fact, one of the first things that needs to be done is to demonstrate senior manager support and promotion of the methodology. Someone, in fact, probably needs to make a mandate that says we are going to use this methodology as our means of accomplishing projects. And when I say that shows the senior management support, but you also need to show promotion of it. So you need to start talking about bringing in the methodology to the ultimate users, project managers, project team members, even before it's being introduced into the organization, so that they are mentally prepared and perhaps even emotionally prepared for the event of its introduction. A second aspect of implementation involves transition planning. You have to plan the transition of all your projects to the new methodology. This is presuming you have more than 2 or 3 projects going on in the entire organization. And like we have worked in the past with organizations having 75, 150 projects going on at any one time, you have to determine through a planning effort which projects are going to use the methodology, which are not. And of current projects, which ones will transition midstream to the new methodology. That's another implementation effort. As part of that process, you might want to consider a pilot effort in one section of the company or organization to test it out and see how implementation goes there, and then use lessons learned from that implementation effort across the rest of the enterprise. Methodology training is an additional area of implementation. individuals need to understand what project management is, what professional project management is, and then having that background, they need to know how to use the methodology to apply those professional practices. A final area of implementation is probably that of feedback and evaluation. In other words, once an organization starts implementing the methodology, they need a means for individuals to provide feedback to the methodology team, if you will, responsible for implementation. And at this time, they're able to get a few things off their heart and soul, their likes and their dislikes, maybe even make a few minor adjustments in the methodology content and the methodology rules and things like that. This can be served well by a methodology help desk, or it could be the methodology development team themselves. And or what usually happens is that the methodology team, if one doesn't already exist, they usually become the PMO. And so, therefore, you can have a natural growth and oversight of the methodology, its implementation, and its maintenance over time. So, implementation of the methodology is a very important aspect whenever you're trying to measure benefits.
I agree. I can confirm what you have just said. And even though it sounds like a textbook approach, in this case, the textbook is right. This is what you have to do in order to implement any kind of methodology properly in your environment. And even if you do it that way, the benefits aren't guaranteed, right?
Well, that's right, because you don't know who's really participating and who is not. And, of course, I highlighted 3 or 4 major implementation activities. There is a lot more of detail that goes down below that has to be done for successful implementation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for talking to us today about project management methodologies in general and also about Project Prism. And if you're ready, I would like to move on to the final 10 questions, the 10 standard questions that I'm always asking at the end of an interview.
Sure. I enjoyed talking with you this evening, and I'm looking forward to the questions.
Wonderful. All right. So, number 1, what was your favorite project?
I think the answer to that is it goes back a couple of years ago when I participated in a PMO design project for a major bank in Canada. And we had about 15 people involved over several months. Some were project managers. However, most were directors and vice presidents of the bank. They were a very enthusiastic and very professional group that we worked around the table together. And the ultimate goal was to define the project management office needs of the organization. And we constructed a design for a central PMO and also for several satellite PMOs. And we incorporated the what many people know, the capability maturity model, development oversight capability to the PMO, and many other features as well. And then ultimately prepared a multi-year PMO implementation plan. So that was just very exciting and very rewarding for me.
Number 2, what project would you have liked to manage? Let me try that again. Number 2, what project would you like to have managed? There you go.
Okay, I think I would stretch my neck out here a little bit and say, if I really had my choice over time, I probably would like to have been involved in setting up the PMO for Walt Disney World. And yeah, really, I did have those interests at a time. And I think between the high-tech systems and the scope of the system deployment across different business areas, that would have been a great project. Particularly if there were any Imagineers, Disney Imagineers, as many listeners may recall, involved in the PMO. And I guess that would be my ultimate e-ticket.
Number 3, what is your favorite project management book? And of course, your own doesn't count here.
Okay, my own doesn't count, so I'm sitting in my office and I look at the ceiling to floor multitude of books in my library, and there are so many good authors out there, and any book on project management, it probably has value to someone. The one that I recall, and I'll find favorite, is something that affected me, was that book by J. Davidson Frame, That was some 10, 12 years ago. I suspect that I read that. It's called Managing Projects and Organizations. For some people, it's a very fundamental book. For others, it's an advanced description of project management. But I would say that book probably changed me from a project manager to a professional project manager.
Mm-hmm. Number 4, what is the topic of the next seminar that you are planning to attend?
Well, in light of my PMO interest, I'm probably going to try to glean more and get somewhere where I can learn more about project portfolio management. And I say that because I believe that project portfolio management is probably the second most important area of the PMO and its responsibility after developing and deploying a methodology.
Number 5. What is the best way to make a project fail?
There are many things that can interfere with project progress and project success. But I think that one primary area is that of poor communication. I think that poor communication among project team members and other project stakeholders can really impact and slow down a project. This is communication across the board. It could be workflow communication that's conveyed in planning documents, even in meetings. It could be status report communications, which requires accurate and timely reporting. It could be communication that sets expectations, particularly with customers and stakeholders. But people communications in general, people need to talk to one another on a project and make sure that they are working on the same page.
Number 6, how do you like to celebrate a successful project?
Oh yes, if I had my choice, after a good 12 to 18 month project, I just like to get away somewhere and rest and relax. Probably a 10-day cruise would be good for me.
Number 7, in your projects, where do you focus most of your attention in order to be successful?
Well, there's no doubt about that in my mind. You need to focus on what I call the project work plan. And the project work plan is one of the elements of the many volumes that could be introduced as the project management plan. The project work plan includes the work breakdown structure, the WBS, and it has attached to it the cost, schedule, and resource utilization. You create that plan, you validate that plan, and you manage to that plan. And if you do that, then you should have a fairly successful project.
Number 8, if you weren't a project manager, what would you like to be?
Oh my, I've not thought about that too much over time because I've been pretty happy in the last number of years. But in reflecting on that, I'd probably like to be a physician and a medical school professional, because that provides an opportunity to explore and understand the several various human systems, emphasis on systems, and that let us walk around the face of the earth. And primarily, it would allow me to convey that information to others, which I very much enjoy doing.
Number 9, what is the one thing that a project manager cannot live without?
This is part of what I've been examining over the last couple of years. In fact, it was part of the methodology development effort recently. And I believe that people skills are very much needed by every single project manager walking around. These are things like leadership, communication skills, problem solving, conflict resolution, negotiation management, facilitation, any of these things where there is interaction between people, and primarily where there is interaction between the project managers and other people, because the project manager has to have these as contributors to getting things done through other people.
And finally, number 10, the oldest question in project management. What is more important in a project manager? Project management expertise or industry expertise?
Well, across organizations, you can probably answer that in different ways. My perspective on that is to suggest individuals take a look at their business card. If it says technical manager, then industry expertise is probably important. If it says project manager, then project management expertise is important. However, I caveat that statement by this. If you are given an assignment as project manager, then project management expertise is essential.
Thank you very much, Gerard. It's been a pleasure having you had someone of your caliber on the show today.
It's been a pleasure to be with you, Cornelius, and I wish you the best.
And that was Gerard Hill speaking to me about project management methodologies as well as his new Project Prism methodology. I mentioned during the interview that we would be giving away 2 books. Gerard has written the Complete Project Management Office Handbook, and he has graciously donated 2 copies of this book. Now, this book at Amazon goes for slightly over $80, so this is an absolute bargain. And we'll do this as we do it every time when we have a book giveaway here. If you would like to participate in this book giveaway, what you have to do is you have to send me an email, pmpodcast@gmail.com, and in the subject write the word PMO, 3 letters, PMO actually, and the only thing you have to write in the body of the email is your name and the country and town that you are writing from. You have until the 24th of May 2006 to send that email to me, and as always we'll do a repeat of this announcement in the show next week, but hey, you know, if you don't send it off today, you're probably going to forget it. So pmpodcast@gmail.com, and the word is PMO in the subject. Also, if you are interested in receiving a free project management methodology, a single user license of Project Prism, then I also have a link up at the blog to the seminar, a workshop, which Gerard is holding in Florida. I believe, if I remember correctly, it's on the 6th of June in Florida. And all attendees of this seminar will receive a free single user license of this methodology. Yeah, and that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. Next week, we have an interview with Christine Munson, and we will be talking about how to get things done. As always, you can find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. And when you write, please don't forget to tell me where in the world you are writing from. And if you don't want to write, you can also leave your feedback by calling our feedback line in the USA at 206-339-6520. And if you have a cell phone handy right now, give it a shot. 206-339-6520. And finally, we have this. Some projects finish on time, in spite of project management best practices. With that, as a project leader, you will be creating change. Change in how your company does business, change in how people work, and change in how people see you. Be prepared for these changes and their impact on you, your co-workers, and your organization. And by the way, if you are not making changes, you are not leading. Until next time.